You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cricket Podcast for our first end of day discussion of the England v India Test series. It's been the Brook and Bumrah show. Well, on day 3, it was previously the Pant and Gill show, and we had a little bit of the Jasprit show, and we'll be talking about all of that. I'm Jack Hope. I'm joined by Max Rowe Brown. How you doing, Max?
Hello, very well. I've been thoroughly enjoying this test match, this cricket. It's been everything we could have hoped for, really. A bit of everything. And day 3 certainly didn't disappoint either. So I'm glad that we've got plenty to get through and looking forward to going through it.
It's been a pretty kind of mad match, isn't it? Like normally at the end of day 3, there's a team that's winning. And that isn't really the situation here. I think maybe India are marginally, and I would say it was pretty marginal, like maybe 5% more likely to win than England. And it sort of stayed that way the whole way. Like they started like that today, and it ended like that today. And lots of
even
stuff
the weather
happened.
Came in at the end to make sure that it ended at a point that was nice and even. And that India didn't get another 20 runs or England didn't grab a couple of wickets and throw it out of kilter. So it's nice, nicely poised.
Max, why don't we, before we get going, just remind people that they should like and subscribe to the Cricket Podcast. They should tell their friends. They should go back and listen to old episodes for no reason to boost Cricket Podcast coffers. Or if you want to be more direct than that, for the algorithm. Or head to patreon.com/cricketpod and you can support us directly. If you're following live on YouTube, why don't you say hello in the chat? Why don't you let us know who you think is going to win this test match? Because I'm not really sure. And while you're doing that, Max will do a quick summary of the first 3 days of this first test at Hedingley.
No small feat to do that. Cast your mind back all the way to Friday, where things began on the second hottest day of the year in England, scorching sunshine. And when you win the toss in scorching sunshine, obviously you opt to bowl first. That caused some consternation. I'm sure we'll get to that decision at some point, but there were good reasons behind it. As it turned out, maybe not the best shout, as Jasprit Jaiswal got things up and running for India with a fairly impressive 100 alongside King Legend, who was looking good before he just edged one behind to Joe Root on the stroke of lunch. And when Sai Siddharthan nicked off almost immediately after down the leg side, England were back in it. But Shubman Gill and Rishabh Pant made sure England were not in it for the rest of the day. They took England's bowlers to town. Rishabh Pant hitting sixes for fun, bringing up his third Test century in England with an almighty 6 off Shad Bashir. That takes him past MS Dhoni as the record holder for century makers as Indian wicketkeeper. So well done to him. The best bit, obviously, about the whole of the Rishabh Pant innings was the flip he did to celebrate it, showing everyone what you should do when you score centuries, bringing football into the game. Alongside him, Shubman Gill had a bat that looked like it was about 3 yards wide, completely unbeatable at all times, and England were fairly badly behind, with India closing the day out on 359 for 3. Bad stuff, and it looked like that was going to continue at the start of day 2, but eventually Shubman Gill fell, Rishabh Pant fell, and then the rest of the Indian batting order collapsed in an almighty heap. The last 6 wickets going for about 30 runs to leave them 471 all out, and England in a position that they were probably quite happy to be in, given the state of the play at the start of day 2. Bumrah then. Over to Bumrah. He got rid of Zach Crawley straight away with a fairly nasty delivery. Let's be fair to poor Zach. A lot of people came out immediately and said, get rid of the guy, but come on, man. It was swinging and it was Bumrah. And that brought Ollie Pope under scrutiny because of the Jacob Bethel affair to this crease, but he put his doubters to one side with a very impressive 100 to leave England well in it at the end of the day. Just about after Harry Brook survived a no ball call being caught with a silly shot. And there were more silly shots to come on day 3 as Harry Brook decided that anyone not called Jasprit Bumrah was not worth bearing any respect to, I suppose. And he just deposited the ball into the stands time after time, even with the new ball, and looked as set for anyone to notch up his 100 before trying to pull Pasha Krishna on 99, top edging one down to Shardul Thakur, who took the catch. And silly boy, we all thought, but England's tail wagged because it's quite a decent tail, and they got themselves to within 6 runs of that India opening salvo. And we ended the day after an early wicket of Jaiswal, steadied the ship. The late wicket of Saisadars brought England back into it, 90 for 2. India 96 ahead, 8 wickets in hand, 2 days to go. It's a one innings shootout, and it's going to be fun.
Yeah, I think it will be fun. I think it will definitely be fun. Where's your money at to begin?
The draw is interestingly low, isn't it? And that's mainly, I suppose, because, I don't know, the CricViz draw percentages are quite low because I don't know what stats they use, but maybe they're taking into account what Ben Stokes has said in the past about England never wanting to draw and the lack of draws in England games. But it feels on. India are going to be, I would imagine, reticent to leave England with any sort of carrot that they can chase because they've looked, obviously new management, so it's hard to know exactly what Shubman Gill thinks in these sorts of situations as a captain because we've not seen it before. But the vibe I've got from India in the field, reasonably conservative. Obviously, it's the first test of a series. You don't want to go and throw away a position where you're, quite in a really good position not to lose the first test of the series. So I can't see India setting England a target, with a bold declaration, shall we say. And there isn't that much time left in the game after you take into account India probably wanting to put on a decent score. So I do think the draw's got a lot more in it than maybe the odds and the CricViz numbers are saying. So I'm going to stick my neck out and say it's going to be a draw, which would be might be a shame. It might be a shame for this game, but
so there's 180 overs to go. I think if all 180 overs are played, there will be a result. If 150 are played, I think it becomes more challenging. Because I think you're right.
Mm-hmm.
I think we'll go into some of the points in more detail in a bit. But if you look at the vibe of the India team in this match so far, right from selection, right from the fact that they picked Shardul Thakur, it has erred on the more cautious side of the scale, with probably the exception of bits of Rishabh Pant's innings. But even that, Rishabh Pant,
point telling Rishabh Pant not to do that, though, is there?
He gets 134 off 178 balls. It's a strike rate of 75. It looks really healthy. It's a great innings. It's not like they weren't in a rush to get to their 470. It was a fairly considered batting, I thought, in some very, very good conditions. I think maybe we'll start with the toss actually, but I think had England batted first, they would have tried to get 400 on day one, more than 400. I think they would have batted at a much higher tempo, but that isn't what India did. They so if you're looking at what their decisions in this match so far, Shardul Thakur being selected as I'm not really sure why he's there, to be honest. I think the theory is that he's a better batter than Kuldeep Yadav. But if you pick Shardul Thakur, what you're saying is that we're more worried about losing than we are about winning. So you've got that, and then there's a great, 470 is maybe not great. Bits of the innings are great. 470 is probably 20 runs above par in the conditions and on that pitch. So they get those runs. Don't get them that quickly. They get them pretty quickly, in the scheme of the history of Test cricket. But it's not what an onslaught that was. And actually, by the end of it, you're that's actually much closer to par in a very sort of normal amount of overs.
Well,
and then in the field,
below par from where they were as well.
Yeah, I'd 100%. The batting collapse yesterday morning was unforgivable. India should have got 550. Easily have got to 550 from 430 for 3. Let's say when Gill's out, 430 for 4. It should be possible for the last 6 wickets on that pitch against a tired England, with the new ball safely negotiated to comfortably have got to 550 runs. To be bowled out for to lose your last 7 wickets for 41 runs. That's we shouldn't be having a conversation about what's going to happen in this match. Is it up for grabs? We should be having a conversation about, like, will England decide to try and bat for the draw? Like, that should be 2 results in play after the first 4 sessions of this test. And the fact that we're talking about all 3 is clearly something went wrong for India there. But 470 is still a good score. And then, but on the cautious side, I didn't think Gill's captaincy was particularly risky. And look, we seem to have gone down the is India's approach right talking point. First of all, it wasn't something I was necessarily planning, but
let's do it.
If we are looking at what happens in the rest of this match, does the fact that they pick Shardul, does the fact that they don't seem to be in a hurry to put runs on the board, does the fact that their captain seems to be, I wouldn't say it was like going hunting for wickets, really. Like, he seemed to be fairly content to play the safe percentages. Does that tell us that India would be quite happy to bat for 3 sessions tomorrow if they got the opportunity? Will they try and just take time out of the game? Will they declare too late if that happens? Answer that, Max. And do you agree that India have been maybe a little bit defensive?
Yeah, I think to go with the first one, I suppose. Yeah, I think they will bat longer than maybe they need to force a result, because England have got pedigree, right, of chasing fairly big scores in the fifth day in recent years, and it is still playing quite nicely, the pitch. So India are going to look at that and they're going to think that they need a fair chunk of runs. And I mean, the Shardul Thakur point, he bowled 6 overs out of 100, and that kind of tells you a lot about his position in this side. And you just think, well, if that was your decision, why didn't you just pick another batter? Like, what? You're getting absolutely nothing out of Shardul Thakur in this game. They've been hoodwinked by the 130 he scored against India A in the warm-up game, just like I said they would. I would even pick Nitish, right? Because he's a better batter than Shardul Thakur. It's just
I don't think that's controversial. Yeah,
no. And with the ball, he's not going to offer anything less than Shardul Thakur's 6 overs for 38. I wouldn't have thought. So there's if anything, you might get him to hold up an end for a bit while you wait for Jasprit Bumrah, or wait for an opportunity to use Bumrah, but you can't really do that because England quite rightly would go after him. So that becomes, he's kind of unusable. And then that ends up putting so much more pressure on the other 3 pacers. And you saw how England approached Siraj and Prashant Krishna. They showed zero respect to either of them. And that might be partly because of how good Jasprit Bumrah is, and that's why you need to score your runs. But it was quite a fun approach to watch. But the result is Jasprit Bumrah has bowled nearly 25 overs in the first innings of this series, and that has to be a concern for India, just in terms of longevity and how much they're going to get out of him for the rest of the series. And maybe that is a ploy from England as well, to force India's hand and make sure they use Bumrah into the ground to blunt him a little bit, because that probably is the only way you can make Jasprit Bumrah playable, make him so tired that he's not as good as he normally is. So I think approach-wise,
it worked.
That's
if that's what they were trying to do.
Yeah, it's worked for England, but that's where I think India are going to have a few questions to answer about how it's gone in England's first innings. I mean, they had some plans, didn't they, for using the short ball with Prashant Krishna when things were going pretty wrong. And to their credit, it worked. They've seen what happened in the Ashes, and England in a position and going after the short ball, thinking, well, they'll probably do it again, so let's give it a go. So, I mean, there was some idea of some way of trying to arrest the momentum of that England batting lineup. So I think at times it probably was passive, and I think the most concerning point, I think, was just the general body language when England were on top. You think England still when India are on top, there's still a lot of energy. There's still they fiddle with a lot of things. Sometimes they maybe go a little bit too esoteric with some of the fielding positions they put in, but at least they're trying something. They're showing that they still think they're in the game, and that there's there's some energy left. And India looked like a team who were basically just waiting for it all to end until the short ball stuff did bear fruit. And that is as much on the stupidity of Jamie Smith hooking that ball 3 balls before tee than anything else. So I guess, they dangled the carrot and England fell for it. So credit to India for trying that, but it didn't feel, like that much of a big brain suggestion. So yeah, maybe a little passive, but it is early days and it was a road. So you do have to bear that in mind. It's not an easy situation to be in charge of, especially when not half, basically 60% of your bowlers you can't use.
I mean, yeah, I was going to say that to sort of round off part one. Like, it's been the Shubman Gill captaincy discussion accidentally for 10 minutes, but like, there is a saying that you're only as good a captain as your bowlers, and like that. How are you supposed to captain bowlers that aren't going to take wickets better? Like that, it's a valid point to raise if you are Team Shubman Gill. You are sort of just waiting for Bumrah to be rested enough to bowl, and hoping that here and there, like something good happens at the other end. Anyway, look, Max, we'll take a quick.
Arguably a little unlucky on day one.
I don't know. I actually, yeah. Siraj was fine, and that's about as far as I would go. So Siraj also, and we'll start part 2 with Harry Brook, I think. Siraj also got taken to pieces by Brook with the new ball. Like, it wasn't. If that's the second best bowler you have, his return figures of 122 for 2, and he's probably a little bit unlucky that it's not 122 for 3, but that's still not good. That's the second best bowler. It's difficult in those circumstances for Gill. I understand that. I also think that he did let the game drift a few times. But we'll take a break and we'll come back and talk Harry Brook.
You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Cricket Podcast. We are discussing days 1, 2, and 3 of the first test between India and England. Lots of action. Max, at the end of part 1, we were just moving on to Harry Brook. He was pretty good for his 99 today. And we should probably, it's as we're doing all 3 days, we should probably talk eventually about the 3 actual Centurions as well as Harry Brook, even if in terms of recency bias, Brook maybe stands tallest in our minds right now.
Yes, it was very, very Harry Brook, wasn't it? It was the kind of belligerent innings that we've come to expect from him in conditions that were obviously in the favour of batting, given the state of the wicket and the number of runs that have been scored so far and the quality of the bowling that was coming at him. But he did he got the game to a point where it was impossible to bowl anywhere to him, and it moved the game along quite quickly, which was why I guess we're sat here with all 3 results still in play. 99 of 112. It was quick, it was impressive, and it was good to watch because there were shots all over the place. I think for me, my favourite shot was probably the on drive that he launched into the stands off Mohammad Siraj for
it was good.
6. I think that was the one where I was purring the most.
Yeah, because it wasn't. I mean, the thing about that, Siraj, I'm not sure whether it fired Brook up or whether Brook was just doing Brook stuff. He seemed quite unperturbed by Siraj's antics. Siraj was obviously, I think, trying to get himself going by trying to get into a little bit of a battle with Brook. It was the new ball. It was moving around a little bit, nothing extravagant. That shot shouldn't really have been on. It shouldn't have been something that was an option. You don't see it very often. It was really special. I think he took 28 runs off the 11 balls of Siraj he faced with the new ball, which sort of tells you how he was operating at that moment. I was quite gutted for him as well. And like, it actually, this segues on nicely. We will talk about all the other good batting that's happened in this match because Gill and Jaiswal and Pant and Pope deserve some credit as well. But I did think with Brook, like I kind of understand why he went for the shot he did. I'm not like sitting here saying, "Oh, what a stupid thing to do." Like he's pacing the ball all over the place. It was there to whack. I think he actually tried to hit it on the floor and just top edged it. I think it was like a mistake rather than hubris. I feel like when you're on 99 at your home ground and you put on the show that you've put on, you can choose to be selfish and let that go through to the wicketkeeper. Even if the percentages say that you should take that ball on and you're probably going to average 80 playing that shot to that particular ball, and like the cricketing good angle to take is to try and hit it for a single or for 4 or for 6 or whatever. I feel like they would have been an easy tap and run single, and we could all be happy and be like, "What a good innings!" Or actually, maybe not even a good innings. Like, we're not taking into account here that he was dropped twice. But like, what an entertaining innings, I think is probably the way to put it. Like just playing shots that really normal people can't do. I think that's why it was so captivating. Yeah. And I feel like the one extra run there, given the circumstances, it would have been fine for him to be selfish.
And it is obviously a stupid quirk of cricket that one extra run means that we probably won't be talking about it for the rest of the series. Where if he had scored 100, we probably would. But there you go. That's the game that we play.
Yeah, and every time he's in the 90s now, people will be like, "Oh, remember that time at Hedingley when he wilted under the pressure of Prasith Krishna and
not like
got himself out.
Not like Rishabh Pant.
Not like Rishabh Pant
with an almighty 6.
Yeah. So of the 400s, Max, what was your favourite? Well, if you could compare each of the 400s, to famous presidents.
Okay. That's
talk us through each 100, which president and why.
Can I not?
No, yeah, that's where we're going with this now.
Right. Okay. I might need your help because you've probably got a better knowledge of presidents. So if I describe, maybe you can name a president that fits it, right?
Great call.
Yeah. So
We'll start with Jaiswal. All right, we'll do the other one. Do it in order of century. Jaiswal first.
Yes. I hadn't scrolled up to the top of the scorecard. Forgot Jaiswal's 100. It was too long ago. Jaiswal, I would say, so I wouldn't say he was lucky to get through the first session because everyone when they're starting their innings deserves some luck because ball moves around and it's generally harder to bat. But a slightly sketchy start to his term in charge, but once you got over the 100 days, smacking it around, belligerent, imposing. He had a real air of authority, and it was all quite impressive and reverent, and then it sort of fizzled out at the end unexpectedly.
I'm gonna go with the Ronald Reagan. The new guy, new approach to cricket, making a statement. Kind of got a film star vibe, I would say, Jaiswal. And as you say, it did fizzle out quickly after 100, and I think Ronald Reagan ended his time in the Oval Office with dementia. I'm not saying
good.
Jaiswal had dementia, but it was the least. It was the least. He got the fewest runs after 100, and so maybe we should factor that in.
Yeah,
somehow.
Okay. Yeah. I like that. Good start. Strong.
We'll say Harry Brook. Oh no, we won't do that one. Go on. Shubman Gill next.
You're going to go Clinton?
No, I wasn't going to do Clinton. No.
Shubman Gill, statesman-like, pure class, unruffled, straight down the line, no messing.
Okay, so that one is easy. That's Franklin D. Roosevelt. Right. India have had their Wall Street crash, the 3-0 defeat at home to New Zealand. And Shubman Gill's come in, the New Deal. That's the approach. He's stimulating the Indian runs economy with an injection of 147 runs. creating jobs for new players, Slicer Darson, for example. That's what I reckon. Franklin D. Roosevelt. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, Rishabh Pant, he's the president. He doesn't do things the same way as everyone else, but it is effective. He brings flair, he brings flamboyance to the proceedings. Obviously, it's an amazing comeback story as well from the horrible injuries he suffered. So that's a big feather in his cap where he's come from and will come back from to lead his country in the way he has and do it in the style that he has and brought so many people along with him as well. The popular one.
For me, Rishabh Pant, Kennedy.
Yeah.
New frontier. That's what I think when I see Rishabh Pant. Like a vision of the future.
Okay, you
That
dodged my Trump setup there. So well done.
Yeah, look, you could do Trump. I would never. Look, someone in the chat has said Rishabh Pant is Trump. So yeah, not afraid to start. No, let's
move on.
Okay, so that's that, and the last one,
Ollie Pope. Yeah, well, he's obviously the president who's been under the most pressure around his position, and he's done something to quieten those people, and he's done it very, very impressively. You know, people have been coming at him, maybe not even fairly. Maybe it's people within his own administration that have actually caused that concern. You know, no one else is calling for his removal, but for some reason, there's murmurings around the party that Ollie Pope needs to be replaced by someone blonder and younger. And Ollie Pope has quietened those people down with some impressive performances.
I'm going to go with Harry Truman for Pope.
Yeah.
So followed on from FDR when FDR keeled over. No one was really expecting, I think, this kind of innings. No one was expecting Harry Truman to be the president, but he left his mark. The original Cold Warrior. I'm not sure that Ollie Pope's got a problem with the Russians.
Who knows? Maybe he does.
Maybe he does. Yeah. I also don't want to rule it out. So good. There we go. Presidents 11. What was your personal favourite? Do you want to talk about any of them in more detail than that extremely superficial president level? Someone really wants to talk about KL Rahul actually in the chat, and I think this is a fair point. If we're talking about batters in this match, we gave Harry Brook a lot of credit. For my money, in this test, KL Rahul has looked like the best Indian batter. He might not have scored the most runs, but I think what he's trying to do is a plan that's repeatable. He has the skills to accomplish, and England don't appear to have an answer for. I think England will have plans that might work against Shubman Gill. I think they will have plans that will work against Jaiswal. And Rishabh Pant, I'm sure he'll score at least one more century in this series. But there is an unpredictability element to that. There is the chance that Rishabh Pant just skies his first ball the next 3 times he goes out to bat. KL Rahul, what he's doing, which is basically to use his best shot and absolutely feast on anything that's a little bit full outside off stump, and then to strike rotate on anything back of a length by trying to work it into the leg side or drop it behind point, and then basically not committing to anything else. Yeah, will work, I think, really, really well in England. And I think he showed this last time he came to England.
Back of a length, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's batted fantastically well. I've been really impressed. If you in the passage of play that we just watched right before this show, if you juxtapose him with Slicer Darson clearly doesn't have a plan. He's meekly defending almost everything, and then occasionally having a slash that goes in the air. And in this test, in the first innings, he could have been out each one of the 4 balls he faced. Well, he was out on one of them, and in this innings, he probably scored half his runs through controlled edges.
Yeah.
Was dropped once and then was caught, and you could see from the reaction to the catch that England were like, he's just going to hit the ball in the air straight at mid wicket. It was exactly what they planned, and they can't formulate a plan to what KL Rahul is doing. They basically need to to come up with a miracle ball,
Well,
or hope he makes a massive mistake.
Yeah,
like,
the most
that's how they
likely
got in the
way.
first innings.
The most likely way you get KL Rahul out with the method that he's employing is the way that he's scoring his runs. So it makes it risky to bowl there. So yeah, no, it reminds me a lot of that Test match at Lords. Was it 2021 when in the COVID shortened series when it was KL Rahul and Rohit opening, and the ball was hooping around, and the pair of them were fantastic, and they pretty much put that plan into place. And yeah, it reminded me a lot of that, and he's been very impressive. It's definitely fair, and it was a shame for him that he nicked off with that one just before lunch. You get to see how frustrated he was at it as well. It was like, it wasn't just that's an annoying thing. That was like it felt like there was more behind it, and maybe that's the plan aspect you're talking about. Maybe it was like, no, that wasn't part of the plan. That was too wide. I wasn't supposed to go at that one. But
yeah, I think that's it, and I think England is a weird place to bat if you. Right, in general, like even if you're English, like the way to be most successful is to really simplify things in most conditions. What we saw on day one was pretty unusual. Even in recent years where we've had some quite flat pitches, it was pretty unusual that like you had such a fast, true pitch with like absolutely no grass on the outfield. So every time you touched the ball, you scored runs. And I think in those circumstances, just being supremely talented can carry you through. You don't necessarily need to have a foolproof way of playing. You just need to be professional, just need to minimize mistakes, and you can cash in. And I guess especially the way England bowled, they didn't bowl well at all, I didn't think, on day one. And I think Jasprit's centuries and Gill's centuries, not to diminish them, but just to explain why I was so impressed with KL Rahul, I think they come off the back of just extreme batting talent. And that extreme batting talent being dropped into quite favourable conditions for batting. You didn't need a special plan for batting in England to exploit what was happening on Friday and Saturday. And even today, to be honest. I think KL Rahul, though, when we move on, well, tomorrow, when it's supposed to be a bit colder and a bit cloudier and the pitch will be a bit, more variable, and when we move to Lords and we see the slope come into play, I still think what KL Rahul's doing will work, and I'm not absolutely convinced that you can just be like fantastic at batting and hope for the best for everyone else. So I think that'll be one of the really interesting things to see through the series.
I think that's a very fair point. I would say, since you did, before we got to the KL Rahul discussion, you did ask me what I thought the most impressive one was, and even though it was the slowest of the lot, that Shubman Gill innings, it was just the most what's the word? It was the most I've completely lost the word that I'm looking for, but inevitable is the word. The most inevitable.
Yes.
Because after about 10 balls of his innings, everything was hitting the middle of his bat, and it was just like, this is the prodigy Shubman Gill that everyone talks about. Not the stats Shubman Gill that the numbers suggest. This is the Shubman Gill everyone expects and wants to see. And it was just like, you're not getting this guy out until he's just a bit too hot and tired and does something stupid. That was the vibe I got. That's pretty much what happened in the end.
It is. I mean, it was his highest scoring tests, and that's when you see him bat like that, you cannot fathom how he only averages 35. It doesn't. To
be fair,
it doesn't make any sense.
The same thing about KL Rahul earlier.
No, it doesn't. I mean, I think KL Rahul is somebody who doesn't always have a plan, but has obviously worked on that part of his game. And if he batted like he's batting at the moment, with that clarity of thought for his entire career, KL Rahul would have thousands more runs, but like literally thousands more runs. But
because it just,
pardon?
I think the opening berth really suits him because it just focuses on what you need to do.
I think as well for him, like he has bounced up and down the order and been used a little bit as a utility player, so it's not all on KL Rahul. But it's Shubman Gill. I think that will make England reconsider Rhodes for the rest of the series. Like, because he will. If Shubman Gill gets the bat on that pitch, Shubman Gill is going to get a century 50% of the time he bats.
Mhm.
Like it was so inevitable.
That was the chat in the Discord, wasn't it? Why, if you are England, would you prepare a road? Because it just brings India into the series a lot more. And it also means that instead of someone like Shalduka, they could just pick Kuldeep Yadav because he will be more useful if it is flat.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I, as I was saying, I think that was a pretty poor selection mistake from India. Is there anything else we want to cover? Bumrah was really good. We kind of knew that Bumrah would be really good. It was very, very good at the end of day 2. And then I thought England played him very well today and made him quite tired. And then he had a little rest. And then he came back and he was quite good again.
Bowled too fast and straight for England's bowlers.
Yes. Around him, like, as we were saying, I'm not sure about the rest of it, but I think we kind of.
It's tough, isn't it? Because you need to mention Bumrah because he took a fifer, his 14th fifer. His record is ridiculous, but also, what can you say that we haven't said 100,000 times before? He's a freak. He's better than everyone else in the world, and he showed it.
You would think probably as well from an editorial perspective, we will get an opportunity in this series at some point to talk about Bumrah winning a match single-handedly, and that might even be
7, 8, 9 in an innings.
That could be tomorrow, for all we know. Like that's. But right now, it was like a pretty normal Bumrah outing, incredibly special.
Yeah, it's pretty sad for England. And just pretty crazy in general, isn't it? When you look at a scorecard of 5 for 83, that's sounds about right.
Yes. I think
83 is a bit high.
I genuinely, at one point it was 83 for 3. I thought England did actually play him better than most teams recently have, and then he picks up the last 2 wickets and closes the innings off. But like, Wokes is a good wicket, actually. To be fair, the last wicket is that's not a collector's item wicket, is it? I could get that guy out. Eventually, that's fine. So, last thing, Max. Last thing, because it has been up for discussion. The toss. With the benefit of hindsight, where do you stand on the toss? Did Ben Stokes get it right or wrong?
Well, with the benefit of hindsight, yeah, maybe you got it wrong. The only thing I would say about why it might have been wrong is because they probably had an idea of what the weather was going to do on day 2, in which case that might have been enough information to move away from the conventional wisdom, I suppose you could call it, based on the stats. Which, what was it? The last 6 games have been won by the chasing side, and it's the venue in England that gives you the most bias in terms of bowling first if you win the toss. So obviously that's why the decision was made and overruled the eye tests, I guess, of the pitch looking quite flat and it being 30 odd degrees and sunny and as much of a batting day as you could possibly imagine. And it's Hedingley, and we know Hedingley is quite famously a fairly good ground for seam bowling in England, and that's it's a reasonable route to go down. But yeah, I do think that maybe, like, given that there were thunderstorm warnings in the north of England for the second day, that maybe that could have been flipped on its head, and you think, well, it actually does look better for batting today, and then tomorrow the conditions will be more bowling heavy, so we could go the other way. But that doesn't mean I'm not gonna like throw my toys out the pram and say that Ben Stokes has completely lost his mind for the decision he's made, because it's perfectly understandable to win the toss and bowl first, even with the conditions as they were. But that may be the only thing that could tip it, I would say, in terms of why you might have gone against it, if that makes sense.
I didn't think it was a bad call. And I didn't, even when India racked up quite a lot of runs, I didn't think it was that bad a call. I think.
Yeah. I mean, the pitch has remained really flat, hasn't it? So it probably didn't even matter. And you do also have to consider the fact that England did bowl quite badly on day one.
Yeah, well, I mean, they did look a bit off the pace,
And there was some swing, right? The ball was moving a bit. So if England had actually bowled well, maybe they do take a couple of early wickets, and it's a different story. So there's the hindsight of the fact that India scored 471, but England did then go basically score the same number of runs, and also hindsight of England bowling badly, and that's their own fault. And it doesn't matter whether you win the toss or not if you don't bowl
well. Did England's egos cost them the chance of a lead?
Yeah, we were talking about this earlier, and I think some stupid decision making maybe cost them the chance of a lead, but it would probably only have been a small one, right? Like we talked about Harry Brook and how he could have gone to his 100th. That would have been one extra run. He would have then carried on hitting sixes and probably done the same thing. So that one's missed out. The only really bad one is Jamie Smith, right? Because all very well going after the bowling, and he's been middling it into the stands and looking mint. But it's 3 balls before tea, man. Like, don't do it.
3 balls before the new ball.
Sorry, the new ball, not tea. Yeah. It was 3 balls before the new ball, and then you're like, you're out, and now Chris Woakes has to come in and face Bumrah with the new ball. So like, just don't do it, right? I'm all in favour of the attacking nature of England's play, but that was I agree with that.
I think in that particular circumstance, you have to have a little bit more game awareness. Like, you can't. They put all the fielders over there. They're basically saying we're going to bowl loads of short balls at you, and you are 3 balls away from Jasprit Bumrah with the new ball. Like, is it better for England if Jamie Smith is in on 40 facing that, or Chris Woakes is in on 0 facing that? Now, in the event, Woakes batted really, really well, and actually, from that position, England were probably due about the same number of runs that they actually ended up getting. But the ceiling is a lot higher if Smith is still in. England could have maybe got to 500 if Smith had been in for a bit longer. Like, realistically, they got the most amount of runs you could have expected out of Smith, out of Woakes and Cast, I think. I don't think it was I think it was just really, really bad cricket. I didn't think the other dismissals, really any of the other England dismissals, were like hubris related. I think Brook made a mistake, and he'd made a few other mistakes and probably should have been out already. I think Bryden Cast looks ridiculous, but there is a reason that he's batting at number 9, because he does. He obviously is good at some bits of cricket, but there's some of batting rather. But there are some bits that he isn't good at, and that's why he's batting at number 9. And one of the things he's obviously not very good at is judgment when it comes to the running away to square leg and trying to poke the ball through.
He ran so far away.
Like if he was better than that, he wouldn't. If he didn't make that kind of mistake,
yeah. Well, what you say,
be batting 7.
If you're not very good at that, don't do it. Just stand there, but
yeah. Anyway, look, we'll see what happens. We'll try and do some more podcasts. Are you around tomorrow evening, Max?
Yes. Yes.
We'll try and do another podcast tomorrow evening, so there'll be more discussion then. Thanks very much for joining us. Before we leave, do remember to click like and subscribe wherever you are listening or watching, whether that's Spotify or Apple or YouTube or whatever. Look forward to talking to people again. Really enjoyed the live chat today, and we'll finish, Max. I've said this a few times, with a message from Deval, who says, what score would be enough to defend? So what's the number that India need to be, let's say, a more than 75% favourite?
Yeah, that's a really tough question, because obviously the only sign we've seen of the pitch doing something funny was just like there was this one really small spot, wasn't there, where 2 balls landed and absolutely flew. But they're not really in a position that's actually going to challenge the stumps or take wickets. So
anything that's good for the batting team, because when it hits that, it just goes for 4.
It's free runs, right. Yeah. So yeah, there's no real sign apart from that of the pitch deteriorating. So again, that could change tomorrow, but the fact there's been a little bit of rain as well has maybe stopped it from getting like too dry and crumbly. So I reckon it's probably pretty high. I mean, so they're 96 ahead now with 2 days left. I mean, if they scored another, let's say 300 tomorrow.
You think
and left,
400 runs?
and then that leaves. Well, if they did that reasonably quickly, and England are left with a day and 2/3 of the longest session left to bat, I think they're I think 350 plus.
Yeah, I think anything over 300, I think, makes India favourites. I think 350 makes them very strong favourites, and I think they've got quite a decent chance of getting there. But then the rain card, as we were discussing much earlier, does complicate things a little bit. But yeah, I would say they want to be scoring at least 200 more runs to be confident that they're in charge of the game. Anyway, we'll wrap up there. See you tomorrow, everyone. Bye-bye.